I got to kick this thing off. Can I kick it off? 1, 2, 3, 4. Ladies and gentlemen, listen.
So let me tell you about Topeka. Topeka, Kansas. It's the capital of Kansas. There is a strong history there. If you know anything about American history, Black history, Brown versus Board of Education, that started in Topeka, Kansas. It was against the Topeka Board of Education. Some of the students that were in those classes that were, fighting to be integrated were my family members. The Brown family, their grandson was my best friend in elementary school. So Linda Brown, the young lady that was the face of the movement, she was a grown woman when I was coming around. And like, I just tell people all the time, yeah, I got whooped by a civil rights icon. She used to have a yardstick. If we messed up, she would pop us with it or whatever. But sweet lady, but her sister was the one that really took the mantle and led the movement. So I've always been around people who have tried to move the ball forward for the Black community. I got to give a shout out to my uncle, Robert Bug. I call him Uncle Sonny. He started the first and the oldest MLK celebration in the country. It's called Living the Dream. My cousin Anton Bug, he runs it now because his mother and his father, my Aunt Jackie, had passed away. But there's a lot of history in Topeka, a lot of that spirit of, we all we got in Topeka. But Topeka also was just like any other Midwest city that had its problems, like the late 80s, crack came and devastated Topeka. Gang violence came and devastated Topeka. So it went from a place where, you have people who are fighting to improve the condition of Black people to a place where, and I'll just say for myself, a place where hope kind of became scarce. And, whenever you got crack, have y'all seen how crack can wipe out a community? I won't say that it necessarily wiped out Topeka, but it definitely had a devastating impact on my hometown. And then when you throw in the gang violence, I've lost family members. My nephew was murdered in the streets in Topeka. So, I feel it's incumbent upon me to come back and to try to get back to, the place where I grew up.
Okay. So is that the goal of the event, to give back to the community?
Yeah, I mean, I think we get back by, organizing Black men. One thing, I live in Dallas, man. I haven't lived in Topeka. I got to Mizzou, where we all met in 95, then graduated in 2000. Yeah, I was on the 5-year plan. I went back for like 2 weeks and was staying in my mom's house, and I said, nah, this ain't it. And then I moved to Kansas City, and then, the rest was history from there. Um, so I really don't want people to think that I'm coming back as the person to tell everybody, hey, this is how y'all supposed to do it, right? It's really, the goal is to give back to Black men and to figure out a way for us to corroborate, because there's people there that are doing wonderful things. A lot of them will be on the panels that we have at the conference. So it would be asinine for me to come in and say, hey, listen, y'all not doing it right. Here's what you should do. If the roles were reversed, I wouldn't want to listen to somebody that was doing that. But the goal is to try to uplift, like we say, what do we say on the intro for the Man Listen Show? Enlighten, enrich, and empower. That's what I want to do for my community. So that's why we're doing this.
Okay.
That's something though, let me chime in for a second. I think that's something that, like you said, not just Topeka, I think that's something that's needed in a lot of different communities. And it might not necessarily be, like you said, to tell them you're doing this wrong, but it also can be a way of encouraging those who are already active that, hey, we do have other people who see us and they see us making this impact and they want to acknowledge that. And that's a huge part of it as well, because as an active Black father, it can get overwhelming sometimes, and you feel unappreciated. You might feel unappreciated,
For
and
sure.
people don't acknowledge that you're doing the work. And so this is a perfect opportunity to also pour back into you, just a word of encouragement. You never know who it might help them get over whatever hump or whatever they're going through.
Yeah, and what really inspired me on this is the keynote speaker. We were doing a fireside chat with Curtis Pitts. Now, Curtis Pitts, come from Florida, worked with Coretta Scott King, and he came to Topeka, and he's always been involved in the community. I mean, he was, active in running the community center in the heart of East Topeka. And you know how most cities are broken down. One side of the town, that were segregation, they ended up being the black side of town. Where Curtis, he used to run Eastlawn, which was a community center, and it was straight black, right? And I had him on, my other show, Conversate with Us, just to talk about his history in Topeka. And he mentioned how, so you had Eastlawn, which was a community center, and so they would have different programs during the summer. And I'm gonna tell you, if you was hanging out in Eastlawn, you had to be tough because you was going to be tried, right? It's just part of living in the neighborhood. And then you had the boys club. I don't know if y'all know anything about boys clubs, right? But the boys club, you definitely got to be on your square because you're going to get tried at the boys club. So it was Curtis at Eastline, and it was Coach Woody at the boys club. And just like any other city, sometimes the resources were scarce. And Curtis told me how sometimes they wouldn't have enough food to feed the kids that were there. So Coach Woody would say, hey, listen, I got extras over here. You come and get some, and vice versa. And that's how they would work. And together, even though they were running two separate movements, they still worked together to make sure that everybody was taken care of. So it's that spirit, it's that experience and that commitment to the community I want to try to bring, because not everybody knows that story. Not everybody knows that story. So I want the brothers that are in Topeka who are already doing stuff to know, hey, listen, you may not even know what this brother's doing across town, right? And it's not a competition. There's different ways for us to attack how we're going to improve our community. And hopefully through this conference, we can do that.
Okay. What other panelists do you plan on having at the event?
So we're definitely attacking Black men's mental health. June is Black men's mental health awareness. I just found that out today, right? I was listening to Sway in the morning, and they were just talking about how, brothers are having a hard time. And what inspired me was because obviously I've been planning this much longer, right? When Justin Fairfax and how he, murdered his wife and then took his own life. And the emphasis was on, Black men's mental health. And, we kind of skipped over domestic violence and how it impacts our sisters. And so I have John Hyman, I have Reggie Jackson, two dynamic leaders in mental health coming through. And we're going to talk about just that. We're going to talk about our mental health. We're going to talk about how we grieve things. We're going to talk about conflict resolution. We're going to talk about domestic violence, anger management, all of those things. So it's through that I hope that I'm able to reach. If I could just reach one or two people to make it to where they are a better man to their family and they can set an example for other people, then I've done my job. So we have them coming in. So I got Bree Markham and Tony Green. They're from the Topeka Doula Project. Now you would ask, like, why would a doula be at a Black dad? And let me emphasize, you do not have to be a father to be at the conference. You just have to be a Black man. Because just like in my book, where I talked about how you don't have to be a biological dad or to be an active Black father. You could be an uncle, cousin, coach, teacher, mentor, whatever, right? But we have Bree and we have Tony coming in because they, under the Topeka Doula Project, have started something called Dad's Den, where the fathers that are going to get services on how to be better dads and how to better support the mothers of their children. So they'll be coming in as well to talk to the men that are at the conference. And again, we have Curtis Pitts, longtime community activist. He'll be in the place to be just to talk about how we can better serve the community.
Okay. I was going to ask you who your target audience is, but so Black men in the community.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy though is we've actually had some sisters express interest in coming, and I hate that y'all put me in this position, but you know we're gonna ask y'all to sit this one out.
Hmm.
The support we need from our sisters is to send the Black men that they know.
Hmm.
You know, send your nephews, send your sons, send your husband, send your dad, send whoever, send them on, encourage them to come and soak up some of this good knowledge. But I think it's important. Number one, it's the Active Black Dad
Hmm.
Leadership Conference. It's not Active Black Parent Leadership Conference. And I just feel that men act differently when they're just surrounded by other men. And we need this to be a place where men can speak open and honestly and can be 100% vulnerable, because we're going to talk about some heavy stuff. And I just don't think that that is going to happen when we have men and women in the crowd. Now, with the interest that we sparked from this, obviously I found out, hey, listen, there's a bigger movement there, because I always say we're much stronger when we're together. But I also feel like we're much stronger when our men are healthy and coming from a place where they really can step up and lead the community. And again, I'm not saying people are not doing that right now, but in order for us to corroborate and be stronger together, I think something like this needs to happen.